Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Today is Saturday, May 9th. I'm Miles here with Ben, coming off of two big game threes here in the second round of the playoffs. Ben, how are you feeling today?
Well, I'm feeling good as usual, so we're gonna keep the good vibes rolling, I guess.
Yep, we had a couple big game threes in the second round, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with the game in the Western Conference that just wrapped up, Ben. Game three between the Spurs and the Timberwolves. Going into this one, the series was tied up at one game apiece after the Spurs with their dominant victory in game two. And it looked like they were going to dominate this game again. They got off to a very hot start on the road. The Wolves came back, made it, super close. It was back and forth. It was tough. It was physical. There were a ton of crazy plays on both sides that we'll get to throughout this one. But eventually, this came down to a monster fourth quarter by Victor Wembanyama, which led the Spurs to this 115 to 108 victory to give them a 2-1 lead here in this series. Ben, I feel like it's only fitting that we start off by talking about Victor Wembanyama, who had a couple of rough games, I think, to his standard to begin this series. Of course, he had the triple double with 12 blocks, but on the offensive end, he really wasn't much of a standout guy to begin this series. My goodness, did he turn that around here in this game?
Yeah, you just get back to being uh, dominant on both ends. He was unbelievable. That's exactly what the Spurs needed out of their superstar. His performance like this to be able to take one on the road in game three in a tough Minnesota environment. And yeah, it was a rough start for the Wolves. You mentioned from watching, it's like, man, this is a lack of energy. Not a good start from the Timberwolves, but at least they, I think, found a way to get motivated to get back into the game to make it, more interesting and it's close, competitive. For the end of the first half, the Wolves had some nice buzzer beater shots close quarters, one from Anthony Edwards, a deep free, which is quite impressive. McDaniels had a free, I think, going into halftime. And so the Wolves, they put up a good fight, looked better this game, but it just still didn't do enough to get it done. They had a hard time slowing down Wemby. This game didn't really have answers for stopping him on defense, especially in the fourth quarter. And the Spurs did a great job at just responding to punches Minnesota was throwing to them. So I got to give the Spurs, a lot of credit with that.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Wemby came out to start this game, I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, Minnesota had 1 point at the midway point of the first quarter.
Yes,
Only one basket,
I
or one
know.
point, sorry. They had missed their first 11 shots, and a lot of that was Wemby. I mean, to start the game, Ben, he had three just unreal plays in the first like 90 seconds. He had the alley oop reverse dunk. He had another score, and then he had another crazy block. I mean, dude, he's had three crazy plays in the first 90 seconds and was making plays throughout. But then in the fourth quarter, when his team needed it, he gave them 16 points in the fourth quarter. And I was, including three big 3 pointers throughout the game. He got to the free throw line, had five big blocks as well, deterring so many shots. I mean, this was just a very impressive performance, Ben. We talked about it last night heading into this game, just how intriguing this was going to be because this was going to be the Spurs' real road playoff test and Wemby specifically. And the guy said specifically, even if the Spurs get off to a double digit lead to start the game, it's all going to be about how they respond to the first Minnesota punch that they give. And there certainly was one
Right.
coming back from trailing 18 to 3. They took the lead by the start of the second quarter. I mean, it was a crazy run that they went on. But the Spurs, they passed the test in this game. They stayed in it the whole way through. And then, Wemby was able to pull it out on the offensive end in the fourth quarter. And I was a little worried when he picked up his fifth foul with 5, 6 minutes to go,
Oh
and
yeah,
Mitch Johnson was keeping him in the game. I'm sure you were worried a little bit too, Ben, wondering what was going to happen here. But Wemby responded like a true superstar does.
yeah. It's quite impressive his response to that. It was like a true superstar, and he's picking things up all right. I think so far to play us as a young superstar player, so good for him. And yeah, it's good the Wolves putting him in foul trouble, but luckily for Wemby, he still played well down the stretch. Was careful enough to where he wasn't able to pick up that sixth foul. Could have been a big turning point for the Timberwolves. Maybe Minnesota, could have possibly won if he got in foul trouble. If and had to sit out the rest of the game, but yeah, it's just I'll get on Wemby and the Spurs. Spurs played some overall pretty good defense. I mean, Timberwolves, it seemed like to me had to make a lot of shots that weren't totally easy looks. So I mean, they did make some tough shots throughout the game.
Yeah, no question about it. The Spurs defense really did a good job. Like you said, I thought they made the Timberwolves earn their points. For most of the game, there was that stretch in the third quarter, I think it was, where both teams were just going back and forth hitting threes. But besides that, it was
Yeah,
really tough for guys to score in this game. For Minnesota, I think a bright spot was that Anthony Edwards had a great game, by far his best game since coming back, having the 32 points, career high 14 boards, 6 assists, making some tough shots in this game. Naz Reid was big off the bench in this one, but really, besides like those guys, and funny enough, Rudy Gobert in the first half with his nice finishes at the basket, I felt like the Timberwolves really struggled offensively, with most of their other guys. When you look at McDaniels, 5 for 22 from the field, 3 for 8 from three, which means he went 2 for 14 on 2-point field goals. And usually it was reverse for the whole rest of the playoffs. He was able to get mid rangers to fall in and finishes at the basket and not from three. Other way around in this game, Randall, 12 points on 3 of 12 shooting. Io DeSunmu, 4 of 12 shooting. I thought, and overall as a team, Minnesota shot 38% from the field. So I thought they had to really earn all their points. And I thought the Spurs also were struggling at times offensively throughout the game as well. But Victor Wembanyama, going supernova in the fourth quarter, made the difference when really no one else in this game was giving their team consistent offense.
yeah. I have to agree there. Just San Antonio, I say overall, I mean, did a good job not, letting other guys really beat them much outside of Edwards, I would say. So yeah.
Yep. So a big win from the Spurs to go up 2-1, the 115-108 victory here. Again, this was just a very crazy back and forth game with a whole lot of tensions as well in this game, Ben. There were some scuffles, throughout from the players. And I don't know if you saw the Chris Finch, Tony brothers, kind of not really full scuffle, but there were times where they were getting face to face,
Oh
and they had to
yeah.
be removed by Naz Reid and assistant coaches. I mean, this game had it all. And, this game in particular, I felt like, Ben, the officials were letting a lot of physical contact go. Like they were basically letting the guys play out there, besides when it was just a super clear foul that they had to call.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. And Chris Finch, I guess, could have been getting mad. And, stuff looked like fouls to him, but the rest were just gonna let it play on and help the Spurs out. Like Chris Finch could have been getting each there. I mean, also, I mean, I noticed, the Spurs did get to the free throw line more. They had 33 attempts there to Timberwolves had 21 attempts at the free throw line, so maybe he could have been getting mad by the free throw disparity finch. But I mean, at least for what I saw, I thought overall the refs in this game at least did a good job. I, I mean, there were a few tough calls that I think looked like they missed, but it seems like to me they got a lot right in this game at least.
Yeah, I'd say that overall, I thought the officials did a good job of at least being consistent for both teams. Which I think,
Yeah,
I know probably the most frustrating thing for players, coaches, viewers, whatever, is when officials aren't consistent with their calls. They were consistently allowing these players to kind of beat each other up throughout the game. And of course they're going to make some mistakes. They're human, just like all of us, but I thought they did a good job of, again, being consistent throughout the entire game. What's going to be interesting heading into game 4 on Sunday night, which is obviously now going to be a pivotal one for Minnesota as they try to avoid going down 3-1, is how the officials in that game will officiate the game. Like, will they call it tighter than they did in game 3? Will it be a completely different game from a physicality standard because of what the officials determined to be fouls versus what you can play on? I think that's definitely something to watch heading into the next game.
yeah, for sure. And the main thing though is Minnesota they need to be just even better offensively. They still haven't been the best offensively in this series. So I mean, it was good to finally see Edwards have a big game. You hope that continues and that other guys step up a bit more often there.
Yeah, absolutely. But Spurs able to pull it out thanks to that monster fourth quarter from Victor Wembanyama. I'd say his first real playoff moment. Like this, I think we'll all remember here down the line when Wembanyama's in his prime, even after the fact, Ben, 20, 30, 40 years from now down the line, however long it is, and we're, you know, telling our children, like Victor Wembanyama, he's unbelievable. And we're like, man, this was the night where he had his first major playoff moment on the road in a hostile environment and coming up huge. I think this is going to be a landmark moment for Wemby's career. And it's, just keep getting reminded every time we see performances like this, that it's so awesome that we're getting to be here and be present in today's world where we can watch this guy, do this stuff here for the first time.
Yeah, it is really cool. Yeah, I can't complain with that.
Yeah. But over in the Eastern Conference, game 3 between the Knicks and the Sixers, and the New York Knicks continue to roll. They go up 3-0. They defeated Philadelphia 108-94. Going on the road in Philadelphia, the home court advantage really was only a big factor for the first quarter when the Sixers were going crazy. After that, it was the New York Knicks fans were going crazy, Ben. They're in Philadelphia, and for good reason, because the Knicks have been rolling. Jalen Brunson, another big time game. Mikal Bridges, 23 big points. And really the thing that stood out was their defense after the first quarter when Philly got off to a very strong start there to begin the game, trying to keep their season alive. But after that first quarter, New York really put the clamps on.
Yeah, they did a great job at adjusting and tightening up after the 76ers. Were getting some good looks that they liked early, especially Paul George getting good looks he liked early, got off to, strong start scoring once again, but then, just like game 2, he tailed off later in the game with scoring and struggled more later on.
He did to that point, Ben. He had 15 points in the first quarter. He finished the game
Yeah,
with 15 points.
yeah, man, exactly. Yeah, it's just like first quarter when he only really had it going, and just yeah, the Knicks they look really good. I look great on both ends. I mean, especially on defense, they looked pretty good there, though. I wasn't all that impressed with strategies the 76ers were trying on offense. I think they overthought some things on that end, and I just would have liked, the ball in Maxi's hands more and him being more aggressive. It was just like sometimes there were some drives and kicks to guys and wasn't totally touching Maxi and resulted in miss freeze and yeah, the 76ers tried to pick and roll in the game with a beat and Maxi somehow. That struggled to totally work, and so yeah, I mean that was frustrating for Philadelphia, and I just didn't think they showed quite enough urgency in this one. Same with Embiid. I was it was an underwhelming performance from him too. I thought he could have showed better effort on the boards down low. I thought.
Yeah, I would have to agree there, Ben. I mean, it's hard to imagine. Like Maxi played nearly 44 minutes and he only got 12 shots in the game, which was fourth most on the team. Paul George led them with 18 shots,
Yeah,
and again, after the first quarter, he didn't make a basket.
yeah,
Joel Embiid 7 for 17, Kelly Oubre 7 for 16. They got nothing from their bench. And again, I mean, when you're leading, like, for all respect to Kelly Oubre, but if Kelly Oubre is going to be your leading scorer with 22 points, you're most likely not getting the effort that you're getting from your other guys, because Maxi, George, and Embiid should no question be your leading scorers in a game of this magnitude that matters so much. And then and again, this is a game here that you felt pretty good about going in for Philadelphia because Joel Embiid returned. He didn't play in
yeah.
game two. We were
We
wondering his
felt good.
status.
We picked on the win, me and you.
Yeah, Joel Embiid returned. OG Anunoby was out for the Knicks. A player that we've talked about on here. I've been, known as saying that he has been a playoff star for their team. Mitchell Robinson returned in this game. But besides that, like OG Anunoby out for the Knicks, Joel Embiid back for the Sixers. You would think the Sixers, would have the edge there, but wasn't the case here. I think that one of the times where I think one of the areas where this game really turned, because it was close there for a bit in the third quarter when the Sixers came back, made their run. They had gotten it back to like a 2-point deficit after Embiid had a layup or a dunk in the post. And the Sixers were in the process of doing the hack a Mitch for Mitchell Robinson, who the
Yeah.
numbers, by the way, heading into this game, I was looking up the stats this morning. It was unbelievable. Mitchell Robinson. Let me see if I want to make sure I am accurate on this. Yes, Mitchell Robinson in 7 playoff games this season was shooting 90% from the field and 29% from the free throw line,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
just a wild combination of stats. And obviously Robinson is a
Yeah.
dunk machine. That's what he's there to do, and offensive rebounds and all that. But in this game, they're in the process of doing the hack of Mitch. And Mitchell Robinson
Yeah.
started out he was 4 for 6 from the line in the third quarter when they did this strategy. So
Yeah.
really, it didn't really work. And then,
No.
obviously Mitchell Robinson's getting confidence on the floor. And to close the third quarter, the Knicks got a 3-pointer from Landry Shamet to end the period, which put them from being only up by 2 after Embiid made, the putback layup, the crowd's going crazy, and they're up 9 going into the fourth quarter. And now all the pressure is on the 76ers. I thought that was a huge turn in the game.
Yeah, Landry Shamet, he was big off that bench in the second half. I really liked the way he was attacking the basket. He, he really came in and played with some great energy. He gave a good spark off the bench they needed for that extra push they needed to, you know, get the job done in this game. But Mikhail Bridges too, you were criticizing him early on in the Atlanta series, but look at how things have changed now in this game. Yeah, I thought he was fantastic. He was a plus 15. He got 23 points. I thought he stepped up good with scoring on the wing with no Anunoby, looking more like the player that they wanted to come up with picks to trade for. So you hope that could continue. And yeah, Brunson's just doing Jalen Brunson stuff. He was phenomenal. I mean, I think he's one of the better playoff scorers out there that we have now in the game in the NBA. And Towns, he didn't. Yeah, he got into the foul trouble again. Couldn't play a whole ton, but still, at least other guys were stepping up, and him, you know, getting into that foul trouble. I guess didn't matter too much there, but you know, still, it's something else I know is sure getting frustrated by and trying hard to prove on.
Yeah, but even like, like you said, you got to give Towns credit. I mean, he has turned into, a facilitator for this Knicks team at the center position, and it's really changed things for them offensively. Another game where he has 7 assists in this one. You mentioned Mikal Bridges. Looking back over his last 4 games now, Mikal Bridges is averaging 20.5 points per game, shooting 34 of 49 from the field, 69%. Like, he is playing very well, over this stretch here and over, in the start of the playoffs, I felt like just wasn't getting a lot of shot attempts up. And sometimes that was, hindering his defense, but now he's shooting it at an unreal clip, a lot of it from the mid range. He's also, knocking down his threes. He's getting to the free throw line, knocking them down a little bit. And his defense has been strong, so this is definitely the player that they were, more like the player that they were expecting to get. And it has been needed, and it was especially needed in this particular game for New York to get the production from both Bridges and also Josh Hart, who had a double-double in this game. They needed those guys to perform without OG Anunoby in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. The Knicks, they didn't really drop off, but I think play wise, they made Eugene and Anobi, so that was really good sign to see. And now that you're up 3-0 on the 76ers, try to get it done as quickly as possible, but you could be cautious on Ananobi and just really make sure Ananobi's rest is back healthy enough before you play him again, which maybe it won't be until the Eastern Conference Finals now, which they'll most likely move on to when he next plays, but who knows? Maybe he's back in game 4. I'm not a doctor, of course.
I mean, I for sure wouldn't expect to see OG for the rest of the series. Like, maybe unless the 76ers, because they were down 3-1 last series, and they've been in, the last 2 games for a decent bit of it. So who knows? I'd expect them to keep on fighting. If this were to get back to, I'd say probably a game 6, then maybe they bring OG back if he's good to go. But I'd agree. I wouldn't expect to see Anunoby back until, the Eastern Conference Finals. For the Sixers, again, just struggling on offense. Let's see how many. I think they scored 31 in the first quarter, which means they only put up 63 points over the final 3 quarters. And I think something that's always kind of a little bit alarming. And this kind of went for the Spurs too in their game. When you get off to such a great start like the Sixers did, scoring the first 9 points, they had the back-to-back alley-oops for Maxey to Edgecombe, which was awesome, by the way. Sixers will be in great hands with their backcourt, regardless of what happens in this series, by the way. That's not, news for anyone here. But when you have such a great first quarter where you feel like you're playing so well on both ends of the floor, to only be up by 4 after 1, or for the Spurs case, for them to only be up by one after the first quarter, that's gotta be like a mental, like, man, like, I thought you think we played so well. It's kind of like game seven of the Cavs Raptors series where Toronto, I thought, played a great first half in that game, but it was a tied game at halftime. And you're just like, man,
Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of demoralizing when you think you're playing so well, but really it's a 1-2 possession game and there's still a whole lot more game left to go for you to keep playing at that level.
yeah, I know. I could get teams, but you just have to keep playing hard and not, really give up. And these teams do that at least. But yeah, it can make it tough on your confidence. I think when you have it rolling good and then just somehow gets more closer than might feel like on the scoreboard.
Yeah, no question about it. But New York up 3-0 after winning their, what now, sixth straight playoff game and a chance to go for the sweep on Sunday
Yeah,
at 3:30. I can't believe
I
that New
can't.
York could sweep this
No,
series.
I can't believe that either. Yeah, I thought we had New York winning the series, of course, but we didn't
Yeah.
think it'd be like this already. So it's a lot of credit to the New York Knicks. They look fantastic. Living up so far right now to the expectations they were needing to achieve this year in the playoffs with Mike Brown now there as their head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking ahead to today's games, we have another team in the Eastern Conference with a chance to take a 3-0 lead at 3 p.m. as the Pistons will look to do that in
Boy.
Cleveland against the Cavs. But again, series shifting back to Cleveland, 3 p.m. on NBC and Peacock. Of course, Cleveland in these playoffs have been very inconsistent, but the one thing that has been consistent is the fact that they've won at home and lost on the road. They're undefeated. They were 4-0 at home in the Raptors series, and they're now 0-5 on the road in the two series. So Cleveland back at home here, Ben. We talked about their series and kind of it feels like we've talked ad nauseum about the things they need to do better, the sense of urgency, the offensive rebounds, taking care of the basketball, all that sort of stuff, defensive focus, and all that. But they gotta, if they're going to try and come back in this series, all the Cavs can worry about is winning game three. They can't think about, oh, we still need to win one on the road. We got to win 4 out of 5. Just got to worry about game three. Ben, what are you looking to see from Cleveland, as they, are in a must win situation here in game three?
Right, they can't think too far ahead. They just, one game at a time here. Now, game three, they gotta focus on, adjustments that need to be better. We'll see if they do make the right adjustments. Who knows? But they're at home at least, so finally, again, they'll have the home crowd. Cam's faithful, I expect to be loud there still in front of them as a sixth man and just hopefully the Cavs, as we mentioned, towards the end of game two, they were missing some good looks on the road in Detroit. I mean, hope the Cavs can find, some good looks like that again, and then hopefully just since they're at home, hopefully those just somehow, you know, go in. But we'll see on that. But usually, I mean, Cavs have found ways to shoot it better at home and role players for the Cavs for winning at home in the Toronto series. Found ways they had some more success and get some more shots to fall at home. So I hope it's like that, and that's possibly enough to get the Cavs over the hump to win Game 3. But but hopefully for Mitchell, I like this urgency in Game 2. I hope he continues to not go away from that and continues to attack the basket and stuff. And just praying that Harden, could give him some support too. Low some pressure, I guess, on Mitchell and finally have a good game himself. But I don't know. Lacking trust in Harden, but well, he could be more trustworthy this one. We'll see, but hopefully the Cavs could do it, or not. Then that it would be brutal being down 3-0. But I do like the Cavs' chances for tomorrow, so I'm a bit hopeful for them with them being back in the home court.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, again, we've talked about it. I mean, it's the same things really over and over again that the team needs to figure out. I mean, they say the right things, they have the talent to do it. They just need to go out and do it. They need to have the sense of urgency. They need to get off to a good start, which they haven't gotten off to really in golly, probably not since game 2 of the Raptors series. Like I feel like these other games, even their wins in games 5 and 7 of the Raptors series, they got off to slow start. So they need to get off to a good start. They need to be focused on taking care of the basketball, which they were after the first quarter of game 2. They need some role players to knock down some open shots. They need to, their star players need to hit, their open shots. They have to have the defensive focus to not lose guys off screens, box out, grab defensive rebounds. And they just need to play up to their capabilities, which they have not shown for a little while. But I think we all know they do have the capabilities. They just have to show it. On the Pistons side of things here, of course, feeling great up 2-0 going into Cleveland here. Not going to be easy for them here in this game. I think something to watch here for Detroit is again how their two all-stars play in this game. Role players again typically are going to play better at home. Their role players thing, as we've talked about before, I think their role players have put them up 2-0 in the series without Tobias Harris and Duncan Robinson have played so well and really have done a good job supporting Cade Cunningham, who has been defended well and has been forced to make tough shots and tough plays, and Jalen Duren, who hasn't really been much of an offensive factor. How are those role players going to play on the road? How are Duncan Robinson and Tobias Harris and Asar Thompson, Dennis Jenkins, how are those guys going to play on the road in this type of atmosphere? And I say to focus on the star players because if the Cavs are defending Cade and Duren well again, like they were in the first 2 games of the series, I think it might be tough for Detroit because you just don't usually see the role players give the same impact on the road. And even Detroit in the first round against Orlando, they were brutal in 2.5 road games in Orlando. They just happened to play historically well in the second half of game 6 to pull out the victory here. So look to see how Cade and Duren are playing in this game and if any of those other role players have it going. Because if the role players are struggling, Cavs, I think, definitely have a chance in this one.
Yeah, and just you know, hopefully Mitchell and Harden they need to show at least a better effort with getting around screens. That was disappointing and was helpful. The Pistons, role players getting more going on offense in game 2, so if they could at least show some more effort there. That can help. So the Cavs gotta rotate right. They gotta rotate better on defense. That really has to be a, a thing they're keying on going into this game to prevent more big role player performances. And yeah, I was at a Cavs Pistons regular season game, and Dennis Jenkins did go crazy on the Cavs home court. So I'm just really hoping that the Cavs don't let that happen again. But we'll see. And I think the Cavs, know what Dennis Jenkins has done to them, and they're gonna hopefully have a good scouting plan for him in this game.
Yep. Cavs back to wearing the classic jerseys for games 3 and 4, hoping that gives them some good juju here as they have, their biggest games of the season. And similar to those last couple Raptors games, the biggest games of this team's history, post LeBron, of this team's era. Because again, if they go down 3-0, end up losing the series in non-competitive fashion, things are definitely most likely going to change in Cleveland. So the Cavs know what's at stake here. It's on them to really perform here. Here in Game 3. But then 8:30 p.m. on ABC, it's Game 3 between the Thunder and the Lakers, with OKC looking to take a 3-0 lead as the series shifts over to Los Angeles here. Ben, of course, the Thunder. The Thunder are just the Thunder. We talked about it. They're up 2-0, and it feels like the MVP hasn't really played that great basketball. The Lakers have had one game where they had, struggles offensively. They had game 2 where they struggled defensively, but the offense picked up. What needs to go right for the Lakers to try to get on the board in this series and get a win?
Well, they're gonna have to play, some great defense and make it ugly. Hope that other guys outside of Shea are struggling more on the road. It was more so them being at home helping them. So try to play tight on EJ Mitchell and rebound good around Chet and Hardstein. Some step up there, and just hope Austin Reeves and LeBron James come through with big scoring performances. The Lakers are they're just gonna have to go crazy. Like, things are just gonna have to be just somehow executed totally the way things they were hoping for, that they're trying to have planned out coming into the game if they want a chance to somehow pull off an upset and feel a bit better about themselves this series by getting at least one win.
Yeah, again, Lakers. Yeah, you're right. It feels like the Lakers have to kind of play a perfect game here to have a chance. And then for Oklahoma City, I think they just got to keep doing what they've been doing. Hope that Shea, again, can play a little bit better. But again, like, they're playing well with him not going crazy here. And I think it's probably good for the rest of those guys that they're getting this sort of confidence in this series, that they're up 2-0 again with, Chet Holmgren being their leading scorer, AJ Mitchell, Jared McCain having big games. So it's very, very encouraging for the Thunder guys. I think all that matters for them here is that they just need to make sure that they don't lose any more players here. They got to make sure that they stay healthy throughout this series and can get to the conference finals cleanly and as good of health as possible here, while they're, whoever they play next, the Spurs and the Timberwolves, like we said earlier, are, just beating each other up, in their second
Yeah,
round matchup.
yeah, indeed. I'm sure the Thunder, love to try to get this series over with quick and move on before Spurs or Timberwolves clinch. Just let them beat each other up in the other series. Ending the series as quickly as possible and getting a rest advantage would, of course, really help OKC.
Yeah, for sure. But there's a look at the games going on here today. Super excited again, hoping that we don't have we don't have 2 3-0 series leads. Want these to try and go as long as
Yeah,
possible. But obviously for us
no,
Cavs fans, kind of like we were saying before Game 7 of the Raptors, Cavs fans, hopefully we're coming on here smiling and feeling good here tomorrow.
yeah,
But that's
I
it.
know.
That's it for
Yeah.
us here. Yeah, Ben, you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, I don't. Go Cavs.
That's right. Try to let them know, but you know that Detroit basketball is feeling confident. So we'll see what happens in that one.
Right.
That's certainly the big one to watch, 3 p.m. Here today in Cleveland. But that's it for us here, man. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA playoff content. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.